In this video, I'm going to explain rhetorical devices and give example of just a few. So first, what is a rhetorical device? Well, it's basically a communication tool. It can be a word, a phrase, a sentence, a paragraph, or even something longer. It's basically taking a magnifying glass to an argument that you are looking at and pulling very small pieces out and saying, this is what this piece does, and this is how and why it does it. They're used together along with logos, pathos, and ethos in order to convince an audience or whatever the purpose of the argument is. We use them every day. You will definitely recognize some of them. It teaches us how to communicate. So these are active links that if you go to the PowerPoint on its own, you can click on each one and they will have many more rhetorical devices as examples. Please do not use this PowerPoint as the be-all, end-all. These are the only rhetorical devices to be found. So there are hundreds of rhetorical devices. So please keep that in mind. I'm only going to show you some of the most common ones. The first one is a rhetorical question. You know what this is, we use it, you've heard it many times. A rhetorical question is a question that is unanswered by the speaker, and it is not intended to be answered by an audience member. It emphasizes a certain point, brings attention to the idea at hand, and gives a certain autonomy to the audience. When somebody asks you a rhetorical question, they are inviting your thoughts into a certain situation. They are not meant to be vocalized, just thought about. So here are some examples. Who knows? Why not? Why would anybody act like that? What will you do for your country? Repetition. Repetition is by far the most common rhetorical device. There are many, many rhetorical devices that involve repetition in some way. This is the very basic one, just repetition alone. Something repeating a word or a phrase several times. So repetition can emphasize the importance of an idea, and it makes it clear and easier to remember. Here's an example. I'm a soldier, my father was a soldier, my grandfather was a soldier, and his father was a soldier. The word soldier is emphasized because this speaker is trying to reiterate the fact that being a soldier is something that his family is a part of. Everybody in his family has been a soldier, and he is too. One way that we use repetition on a daily basis is when talking to friends and family. For example, if I said, I'm hungry, I didn't get a response, I might repeat it and say, no, I'm hungry. That repetition makes it real, makes it more powerful, and it also gets people's attention. Parallel structure is a phrase or two phrases that share a similar grammatical structure. Here's an example from a very famous first sentence of a book. This is the opening to A Tale of Two Cities. This is one sentence. Many people think that the first part of this sentence is the entire first sentence, but it is much longer than that. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, and so on and so forth. You can see that it almost has a rhythm to it. There's a certain very short phrase type that is repeated over and over again. So that is parallel structure. I mean, it's almost the number of words within each pairing of parallel structure. So think about parallel lines. They run right next to each other, as well as those two cute tails of the cats in the basket there. It's kind of a parallel set of lines right there. Antithesis. So I just briefly described parallel structure. Antithesis is a contrast within parallel phrases. So if you put contrasting elements together, it highlights their stark differences in a way that is more powerful if they were to stand alone. So think about a flashlight in a room. If you turn on that flashlight in the daytime, it's not very powerful, it's not very noticeable. You are trying to light in a light area. But if that room was dark, it was the middle of the night and it was very dark, and you turned on that flashlight, it seems to be much more powerful. The power of the light hasn't changed. It is just a contrast between the light and the dark makes it seem much more powerful. That's what antithesis does as a rhetorical device. Here's an example. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. There's a little astronaut kitty for you. So think about the small step for man and the giant leap for mankind. If Neil Armstrong were only to say, that's one giant leap for mankind, we would all say, why, yes, yes, it is. But he's contrasting it and showing how powerful it is by telling you that man is taking a small step, mankind is taking a giant leap. So putting a small and a big together makes it seem quite powerful. Here's another one. We just saw this on the last slide. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Those are literal opposites. And so putting them together creates this kind of dichotomy that rolls throughout the entirety of the book, actually. And the third one is an example. Many are called, but few are chosen. Again, the structure is the same. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. There's parallel structure. There are two very similar clauses there, but you have many and few. Again, that's contrast within parallel phrases. The next one I want to talk about is alliteration. We have used this since we were children. It is the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of a group of words. Here's an example. It's to create a rhythm that can move a text forward. It creates a certain mood. So if you have repetitive S sounds, there's a very snake-like quality to it, and it seems quite ominous. And also, alliteration makes things easy to remember. For example, tongue twisters are all alliteration. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. You have an obvious S sound going on there. Another one that is difficult for me, a big black bug, a big black bear. For some reason, that one takes all of my concentration, but I did it. And then the third one, you see this a lot in advertising. For example, bed, bath, and beyond. That is an alliterative phrase. Advertisers like doing this, businesses like doing it because it is easy to remember. Okay, hyperbole. This is something we use every day. We are a dramatic people. Human beings love drama. It's an exaggeration. It's using exaggeration to emphasize an idea. This is one of my favorite ones. That cat is showing you an exact representation of hyperbole. It might as well be over beyond the Great Wall. That's quite dramatic. Kitty, your tennis ball is right there. Go get it. But he's being hyperbolic. So we use hyperbole to make something seem less ordinary. It makes it much more exciting. It can be for humor, persuasion, or to highlight contrasting arguments or anything like that. Here are some examples. When you're cold, a lot of people say, I'm freezing. I seriously doubt you're a solid block of ice. Or, I'm starving. I also seriously doubt you are starving to death, especially if you ate 5 minutes ago. This weighs a ton. Well, a ton is 2,000 pounds, so I seriously doubt it. Also, this happened to me a million years ago. Congratulations, you are the oldest human being on Earth and in history. Also, I worked at a fast food chain for a few minutes. Yeah, probably a few months, but a few minutes is hyperbole. We often think of hyperbole as being much bigger, but you can make things seem very small with hyperbole. I challenge you to go an entire day without using hyperbole. Good luck. Personification is using human characteristics to something that is not human. Think about just about every Disney movie ever. There's talking that probably shouldn't be talking, like a teapot. That is personification. Just like this Harry Potter cat. We have made this cat. Well, this is not my cat. This is an internet cat. I just want to be clear. So this cat has been made up to look like Harry Potter, who is a person. So that is personification. I sincerely hope this is Photoshop for this kitty's sake, but Joker kitty. So this is a type of metaphor. A metaphor is something that represents something else, basically, and it serves to strengthen a certain image, object, or idea and allows us to better connect with it. We often talk to our pets, and don't you dare, you don't, because I guarantee that you do. We talk to them like they're people, like we think they can understand exactly what we're saying. We are personifying them. So some examples here that are a little less literal are the stars danced in the night sky. Stars don't dance, so people dance. So we are personifying stars. My jacket wilted onto the floor. Jackets don't wilt. Gravity took that one over for you. People wilt. Plants wilt. Plants are living things, and so they wilt. Your jacket is not a living thing. The vacuum limped across the carpet. We are personifying that. If I saw a vacuum limping, I would call a priest first and then move, because vacuums don't limp. Also, the car jumped right in front of me. Cars don't jump, people jump. So that is personification, giving a non-person a person quality, people quality. The next one is anacoluthan. And it sounds like a type of snake, but it's not. It is a sudden break in a sentence's grammatical structure. For example, this sudden shift can emphasize a point and wake up an audience. This is used in music quite a bit. This will be very quiet, and then boom, you hear a cymbal crash or something. That's anacoluthan. So here are some examples. So then I pulled up to her house. Are you still with me here? So anytime anybody comes out of a story to kind of make sure you're paying attention, that's anacoluthan. Oh, look at this cat. We have personified it. See, they're everywhere. Metaphor. So I think everybody memorizes the definition of a simile in elementary school. Simile is using a comparison using like or as. A metaphor is an implied comparison. You are comparing two things, but you do not use like or as. It is a very strong descriptive device. Once you fully understand metaphor and are able to recognize it, you'll see how strongly we compare other things to other things. And so unlike a simile, one thing is not like another thing, but it so closely resembles it that it represents it. For example, if I said, my purse is a trash can. Well, that is a much more powerful example of how messy my purse might be than saying, well, my purse is like a trash can. Those are two very different things. And a simile makes two things similar. But a metaphor, one thing represents it. Here's another one. The eyes are the window to the soul. They're not like a window to the soul, they are. So it is representing it. And that idea is garbage. It is not like garbage, it's much stronger than that. It actually is garbage. So also think of the ocean. If you look at the ocean and say, wow, look at those possibilities. Well, the ocean would then be a metaphor for possibilities. Simile. We briefly discussed this in the last slide, but it is a direct comparison using like or as to compare something to something else. For example, our eyes are as beautiful as a sunset. They are as beautiful as a sunset. So you have two things kind of side by side. And I mentioned this in the last slide. My purse is like a trash can. It is not so bad. It's similar to a trash can. And I want to point out this beautiful black kitty showing us George Takei's quote that social media is like ancient Egypt, writing things on walls and worshiping cats. Yes. So this is the last slide here, and what I've done is I've just very briefly listed everything for you that I've covered so that you can reference it if you like. You don't have to keep going back and forth. You can just kind of keep this slide up. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching, and please don't forget that these are just a very, very small collection of rhetorical devices. There are literally hundreds, so go forth and research and find them.